Uh, Strange week, emotional week. A lot going on last week. From Tom's crew being here all week, which is something that takes a little getting used to. Having cameras follow you around pretty much all day, every day, to the Georgia fans stepping up and going all out with the pink out, and just how that kind of unfolded through the course of the week. It brought on a lot of conversations, a lot of interviews throughout the last 3 or 4 days leading up to game time, even that morning, and even when we walked out. So a lot going on, and kind of posted out and tweeted out how much I appreciate it. Just say again publicly how classy of a move I thought it was with them doing that, and just how many people responded and participated. So thank you. The game itself obviously did not go how we wanted it to. I didn't think we played particularly well. I watched the tape a couple times since, and I still believe that we could have played better. I don't think at any point we even competed really at a point where you could say that we had a chance to win it. And could have played our best game and still maybe not beat those guys. They're really, really good. They've put together a very good football team. They've got strength, they've got speed, they've got length. You just put all those guys together. They put the twos out there, they look no different than the ones, and then they put the threes out there, and they didn't look any different than the twos. So they've obviously recruited well, and they're going to win a lot of football games. I would say there'll be somebody you'll be watching late in the year, and they'll be in the mix unless something drastically changes. But the most disappointing part for me was that we just made some mistakes that we can't make regardless who we play. And when you play a team as good as Georgia, they're going to get magnified, and you saw those become explosive plays for their offense, and us not being able to run the ball against a limited box on defense, against their defense, and really just very few productive, positive plays that you can kind of pull from and say we did what looks like us. So we're going to get back to work this week. Challenged the team yesterday in our meeting. We've got what I think is a dangerous Southern Illinois team. On paper, it's a team that we should beat, but you don't play it on paper, and they're very capable of coming in here and definitely making us work for it and beating us if we're not careful. They did that to Coach Bell and his crew a couple weeks ago and made them like it, and we don't want to be in the same environment. We need this win. We need to go 2-2 in non-conference play, and we need to win here at home. So there's our kids know what they're up against, and I think they'll have a very healthy respect for the opponent when they come in on Saturday.
What were some of the mistakes specifically that you really want to address?
There's a few. We had some. A lot of what you do defensively is based off how they line down, Matt, and they don't tell you how they're going to line down, so you have to see how they're going to line down and make some adjustments, if that makes sense. And we just didn't do those. We had guys that were out of gap. We ended up with 2 guys in a gap, which leaves a gap open, and you end up with an explosive run. We miss an edge player. We miss a stunt guy or a blitz guy. Just some very simple communications from backer to defensive end, from defensive end to overhang player. Just some things that mechanically, even against an average football team, if you put them in that situation, you're going to let them make some plays that they shouldn't. And we had some of that defensively. We had some protectional issues offensively. A couple opportunities that we would have liked to have pushed the ball downfield, and we didn't pick things up properly. We got overwhelmed at times physically, which is going to happen in that kind of game. But it's those kind of mistakes that were frustrating. You follow Jerry on Twitter?
What's his injury status?
He hurt his knee. I don't know all the details yet, but it's obviously significant enough to keep him out of the game. And he's obviously very questionable for this week. And it could be more. It could be extended. I mean, it's a possibility it's something that's going to keep him out for the year, but we don't know yet for sure. We'll know more today and tomorrow as he sees doctors and MRIs and all the above. But nothing looked crazy on the film. I mean, it really looks pretty mild. It doesn't look bad. But sometimes knees don't look bad and turn out. So, we'll just have to wait and see. I wouldn't really know what to tell you until we get a little bit more information. Yeah, his was a little bit of a hamstring. You could see he grabbed it. I think he's fortunately got off of it before it got really bad. He was much better this morning when he was in here. I think there's very real possibility he'll be ready to play. at least on a limited basis, if not, completely well, depending on how he responds to steroid injection. That they did that almost immediately on the sideline, and he's already feeling better today. My level of concern at corner is through the roof, but it has been. We were thin going in. We knew we were. With the injury to Javon Jones in the spring, he was the number 2 that was really pushing for playing time. With the ACL, that made us. It's hard to imagine that losing one guy makes you thin, but it does when your numbers are already 10 short. So we're in a position where we're not exactly sure how long Jerry's going to be out. If it's extended period, I mean, we're extremely thin. Jarius Romanika has done a really good job as a true freshman, showing that he's going to be able to play snaps. I thought Medley and Nathan Page both played really well, honestly, when out there. I thought Nathan made a big play downfield on a vertical ball. Medley, got off some blocks and made some tackles. We got to stay healthy.
If Derek winds up being out for a long time, will you use Red Arrow?
He would get it back automatically based off the rule. If he did not play again this year, he redshirted as a freshman at Hutch, and now he's got an injury that would take a year away. He would get the year back. The rule was passed 2 years ago. It's pretty much just a matter of filing the paperwork. So I would rather him be on the field playing for me this year as opposed to taking a red shirt. But it is at least available if he needs it. Yeah, he's done better. I gave him a list of things that he had to do to even consider coming back in the first place, and he managed those. He handled his grades. He did the things he needed to do. He spent some time really honestly working on himself in some different environments off the field. I thought he came back with the right attitude in terms of why he wanted to come back, and since he's been back, I've had really no issues with him. He's been pretty quiet and been where he's supposed to be, and we've gotten consistent work habits out of him every day, and it just seems like he has tried to do what we've needed him to do. My first thought is not to ever get rid of a guy. I mean, I'd like to help him change and grow up, and that was mine and Coach Johnson's approach to him, was just help the kid grow up. But there does come a point in time when if you just don't see them putting forth effort, that you've got to eliminate him. But he put the effort in and did what we asked him to do, and he's come back, and so far has been really good.
Just take an opportunity to lessen Jacob's load, or beat up like those guys are beat up. What's the still?
He's beat up and tried to push through it and just wasn't very effective. And we felt like that, obviously, the way the game was going, there was no reason to continue to keep him out there and potentially make it worse. I think we probably, by pulling him when we did, helped ourselves in terms of his healing process. And it's nothing. It's just wear and tear. I mean, he's been dealing with it and doing everything he can do. That's the one thing about him. He's going to live in the building trying to get well, but just a lot of bang on the guy's body. So we're hoping to get him better this week. If it not, I think we're in that week to 2 week process for his body to be feeling a good bit better. Day to day, we knew for sure neither one of those guys were ready, but feeling like by doing that we could have them back Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and have them back in a position where they can help our football team. And obviously, definitely want to have those guys back 100% by the time we get to conference play. I mean, that's getting here pretty quickly. Yeah, it just seems, and it's been different injuries. I would have to say he's really frustrated. I mean, you see the glimpses of what he can do when he's healthy, and to not have that available, it definitely changes. And I think Jay Adams has done a phenomenal job and had a big game in some pretty tough circumstances this weekend, considering the talent he was playing against and the fact that he got some really rough news right before the game started and then had to play through it. So really proud of how he stepped up and kind of fought back some emotions to play well. And he gets better every time he goes out. But we'd love to have both those guys back. They do they do create problems for people, and they do round out our offense in ways that other guys just aren't capable of doing when they're gone. I think if you ask our coordinators, what you'll find is just they're pretty they're pretty basic defensively, but they play extremely hard with a ton of movement. Movement can work against you at times if you move out of a gap, but it also it's a lot for our offensive line to deal with. We've got 3 new starters up there. When you take Steele out of the mix, if he's in or out, I mean, you end up having 4 new starters up there. The movement can at times, the quickness in the movement can be a problem. If we can get our hands on it, it can create some opportunity for us too. So that it's a little bit of a feast or famine type approach. But defensively, our guys are going to have to deal with a bunch of formations and a bunch of tempo. And you put those 2 things together, and if we're not communicating really well, you'll turn a guy loose, you'll end up out of a gap, and you'll give up an explosive play that just by struggling with the speed and the different looks that you're going to see. So a lot of variety with their offense. Not much variety on their defense, but a lot of variety on their offense. And we're going to have to do a great job communicating, with our back end, especially to get matched up to all that.
Kind of the opposite of last week where you're going up against the top team like Georgia. Do you kind of tell these guys you lose doing that on paper? It looks like a game you should win, but you kind of have to tell them that, hey, you guys are good.
Respect every opponent is what we always talk about, and really talk more about us than we do the opponent anyway. I told them yesterday, literally, we could not tell you who we're playing every week, and our standards shouldn't change. They're good enough to beat you, and they're going to obviously come in here with a plan to do so. We just need to play better, regardless of the opponent. Don't even worry about the opponent, to be honest with you. And I think that has been an approach when our team has grasped that thought process and truly just gone in and focused on doing our job better. The teams that we've had that have been able to do that have played well. You can't decide how you're going to prepare and play depending on the opponent. You can't do that. You can't get that. That's a guessing game. You don't want to be that. And so we're trying to stay away from that environment.
Is their offense similar in ways to you all, to what you guys do?
Oh, it is. I mean, they're spread out team, tempo, making you bounce around. So there are definitely some similarities in terms of how they look and deploy and the tempo that they play in. I mean, they're going to RPO you. They're going to perimeter screen you. They're going to give you a lot of different looks.
The fact that you guys defend yourself in practice every day.
It's got to help. It's got to help, you would think. I mean, it's not like we haven't seen it. No, we got to go out and execute that on game day. But they have seen tempo. They've seen multiple formations, spread, RPOs. So you got to feel like we've got some benefit from the snaps we've had against them.
They wound up playing a backup quarterback in a chunk of this game.
Yeah.
Last week, any difference in them?
Oh, there's a difference between the 2 guys. I mean, Dave could tell you more specifically. I think their starter was in a sling, actually on the sideline for the game. And so, the personnel of their offense, I haven't watched enough to tell you exactly how it changed, but I know they used a good bit of wildcat in the absence of their starting quarterback with a big 240-pound running back. So that'll be another thing you got to prepare for. We'll see. I don't know if they expect the starter to be back and how that changes things, but you definitely, they're dealing with some injuries.
When you watch their defense against UMass, you're watching Walt's offense. Is it your guys' stuff?
He's struggling with personnel, so right now he's doing a little bit of everything, to be honest with you both. I mean, you see some glimpses of what we do, but I think their struggle with getting the right guys on the field at this stage of what they're doing is their biggest issue, and they really never got things going against them. The one game that these guys have lost is against Southeast Missouri, who's top 25 in the country at that level, and they beat Tennessee Martin, I think, this week, 28-14, and Tennessee Martin has been a pretty good team the last 4 or 5 years. Coach Simpson's got that crew playing pretty good. I mean, they're a good football team. They're competitive. And they scored a bunch of points against Ole Miss a year ago at their place. In that environment, it did not seem overwhelmed at all. Now, they've lost some guys, graduated some guys, but this is not new environment to them.
Have you talked with Coach Bell just to get some ideas?
Yeah, we did. We talked some this morning. We'll have more conversation. We want to watch tape a little bit more before we knew exactly what we were trying to ask. But, they're obviously they're going to share anything they have, and he'll tell you it didn't go well for them. He didn't have a lot of positives from y'all. I mean, y'all know Coach Bell, so he didn't have a lot of positives coming from that game. They're really struggling with personnel, so they just felt like they didn't play very well. Consistency. You know, you play really mistake-free ball against Vegas, coming out of a game that was kind of mistake-driven against SMU, and then we go back and make some mistakes, you know, this week that, again, wouldn't have changed the overall outcome of the game, but would have changed the look of the game. And you know, that's just me. We got to find consistency.
How long was playing overall, and too, maybe even how he played Saturday without a lot of time to operate.
Yeah, he had to get it out quick. Had to get it. I think he's doing really well. I mean, he didn't turn the ball over, and in a game like that, having to get rid of the ball as quickly as you have to, with the kind of length and speed that they have to recover. I mean, they didn't really get a hand on a ball. I mean, there wasn't a tipped ball and there was a couple of competitive plays, which you expect, but he, for the most part, made good decisions on when to put the ball in the perimeter and when to throw the ball on our RPOs. Threw the ball away a couple of times, which sounds really simple, but it's harder to do because you don't want to give up on plays, and he's been known to take a sack or force a play in the past in scrimmages, and that's been what we've been coaching him out of. So I've been really pleased with how he's played. I think every time you go out as a quarterback, especially, and you see things again, you just tend to draw from that experience. And he's one of those guys that spends the time to go back and dissect the game. He's playing better right now than he was a couple games ago, and he's got a chance to have a really, really good career if he can stay healthy. And luckily, we got weapons that he can get it to. Thanks, guys and gals.